Hey, how's it going? You have found Full Scale Outdoors Podcast. I am Dale Luganbill. Before we get into this week's podcast, quick reminder if you haven't done so already, find us on Facebook, Full Scale Outdoors, also on Instagram at fullscale_outdoors, where I post some pictures there. I'll keep you up to date with how the bite's going or whatever I'm chasing, whether it's fish or fur or feathers or fungi. Ooh, look at that. I threw in the fourth F. Didn't even know I was going to do that until just now. Anyways, do all that. And if you are listening to this podcast, please subscribe, rate it. A nice 5-star rating would be awesome. I would appreciate it. Leave some feedback. I know with Apple Podcast, it's a big deal in the way their algorithms work as far as getting it out there and suggesting it to other listeners. So I'd super appreciate any of that feedback and giving it a good rating. That would be awesome. So this week's podcast is a fishing-themed one. We've actually recorded this on the ice on Mille Lacs Lake out of the Yeti wheelhouse. It was pretty fun, pretty good time. I've known this guy for a little while. We have background in the construction industry, and we both have made a move to make the outdoors a profession. So we talk a lot about that and have a few good laughs. We rip on each other. It's pretty funny. I like it. So I think you'll like this one. Tune in. Here is Donnie Obert on the Full Scale Outdoors Podcast.
Oh, here we go, boys.
Go.
Ooh, I love that sound. This is a good one.
See, this is where the fish are supposed to just turn on and create chaos.
That is what's going to happen.
That's what I'm hoping. All right, everybody. I am sitting in the Yeti on Mille Lacs Lake with Donnie Obert of...
Rainy Days Guide Service.
And don't you also have your own Obert Adventures or something?
Yep, Obert's Angling Adventures on Facebook. So Rainy Days Guide Service is a bit of a collaboration between 10 different licensed insured captains. So we all kind of have our own deals going on Facebook as well. So if you wanted to follow me directly on Facebook, it would be Obert's Angling Adventures, but also part of a greater team, which is Rainy Days Guide Service up on Rainy Lake and Rainy River.
Word of caution if you find him on Facebook. He's kind of ugly. He's not really easy to look at. So
send your wives over to look at my pictures.
Just kidding. So we've actually known each other, or at least about each other, for a while. As we were and when I was an iron worker, you were a labor foreman. Is that right?
Yep, a concrete labor foreman. Yep.
Working wherever. That was a hospital job. And
oh, you mean Fairview Southdale was probably the last
That's
job
what it
we
was.
worked on
Yep.
together, and that was you iron workers had no brake trailer, so you and Big Mike would shack up in ours, and you and I would talk about fishing until everybody else left the room, basically.
That there's a lot of times where we didn't get brake trailers. Apparently that's something that ironwork contractors don't feel is an actual need.
Well,
I mean, you have a vehicle. What do you need a brake trailer
you've got
for?
a vehicle. You know, days like today when it's 20 below zero,
Yeah.
15 minutes is plenty of time to work.
I love
your car
those.
up.
Just about the time it almost starts to get warm, you got to hop back out, and then you're getting yelled at because they're whistle biting you because you took 20 minutes instead of 15, which technically it's only supposed to be 10, so they're already cutting you a break on that 5.
10-minute break, yep. Giving you that 5 out of the kindness of their heart.
But I do recall when we were working together that I brought up the idea of starting my own guide company, and since then the idea has morphed into something a little bit different. I mean, I do have a guide company if anybody's interested, and I rent out this super awesome Yeti. It's actually pretty nice in here, is it not?
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet shack. I've owned a couple of Yetis over the years myself. They put out a quality product,
Pretty
I believe.
nice.
Yep.
Yep. Shout out to Krobitz RV. That's who hooked us up with the Yeti. They're awesome people, super nice, do a great job. Their customer service is top notch. So if anybody's in the market, definitely check out Krobitz. There's an unpaid shout out to them just because they're awesome. Anyways, so going back, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we talked about this, and then you actually beat me to the punch.
Yeah, I know.
Next thing I know, I see on Facebook, Donnie's guiding now? What in the hell?
So yeah, I had an opportunity. I had fished in Voyageurs National Park, frequently for probably the last 20 years, and for people that don't know, Rainy Lake is be the northern part of Voyageurs National Park, and then Namakan Lake and Kabetogama are some of the southern lakes there on Voyageurs National Park. And my wife and I had vacation there and spent an awful lot of time fishing there for the last 20 years, fishing and camping on some of the boat-in islands.
That's a border water.
That is border water, correct. Yep, 70% of Rainy Lake.
You can see Canada.
Yep. So 70% of Rainy Lake, roughly 70% is in Canada, and 30% is in Minnesota.
But 98% of the fish are on the Canadian side.
Yeah, I tell you what,
It seems that way.
We discussed this a little bit earlier today. That there are definitely times where the bite is better on the Canadian side. Yep.
It just seems like how it is. It's chasing bites. I mean, that's, as an angler, we talk about that all the time. It's like, oh, I should have been here yesterday kind of a thing. Actually, we stayed at a lodge. This is an interesting story. One I didn't think I was going to bring up today, but here we are. This is how my brain works. So I went to a sportsman show, and they had the fishbowl, like win a trip fishbowl thing, right? Signed up,
real popular.
Put my name in there. So I get an announcement or something in the mail, like, I won a trip to this resort, 7 days, full week. And this place up in outside of Ear Falls, Ontario. Sweet. Here's the catch. I won a trip, but it's minimum 2 occupancy. So, okay, but still, like,
sure.
I find someone to go with me. We split it.
Yep,
it's still a
price.
deal, right?
Yep.
We're going up there for half price. So, I go, my buddy Jimmy, we head up there, drive all the way up there. We're super excited. We get there. It's a boat in place. There's no roads that go to the resort. Like, this is so cool. Like, this is the kind of stuff we've dreamed about. We've read about doing these far out lake trips. Like, we had these visions of grandeur. I remember having a conversation with him, like, what do you think our biggest walleye is going to be? And of course, like, the biggest walleye was going to be 30 inches. The biggest northern was going to be probably 45. The biggest muskie would be 52 to 55. Smallmouth going to be 8-pound smallmouth for sure.
Solid. Those are real solid plans.
Realistic numbers, right? Like, super. Oh, it's Canada
for sure.
They almost you don't even really have to put your line in the water.
Yep.
From what I understand, they see you and like, oh, you're an American. They jump in your boat.
Yeah, 30-inch walleyes behind every rock.
Every single rock and weed. It's just how it is. So we get up there, we get off. People are friendly. They hand us a beer. We're like, all right, this trip is starting off the right way. And then we get settled in, and every day goes on. We realize this might not have been the deal we thought it was. You start asking about, like, where to fish, because there's, like, a chain of lakes, and they want you to fish on the last lake. Now, I'm not using lake names on purpose. I'm not using this resort's name on purpose.
Sure.
I don't want to run. I mean, if anybody deserved to be run down, you'll hear why. It would be this place. But that's not how I operate, so I'm not going to do it. The people, if anybody's listening that knows this sounds awful familiar about a place around Ear Falls, and I can say that at least because there's only 8 zillion resorts around Ear Falls, Ontario. So it's kind of hard to single out, although this place is pretty well known with the locals for this very reason. So as you ask around and you ask the guides and you ask people like, any tips or where we should go? And they always said this last lake in the chain. Now, of course they want you to go to the last lake in the chain because, as we said, you can't get there by road, so you have to buy gas from them. Now, everybody knows when you buy gas at a resort dock, there's a markup, a pretty substantial markup.
Sure.
This one was extra substantial markup. You were a prisoner, but I didn't know any better. I was pretty naive. I was pretty young. I don't remember exactly what age I was, but I wasn't. I was low 20s, I'm sure. And so we're like, well, we're not going all. I refuse to believe that that's the only lake in this chain that has fish. So we just went off. We found our own fish. We did not find any 30-inch walleyes
0.
or 8-pound smallmouth or 50-inch muskies. We did have some decent pike in the upper 30s, 30 inchers. Decent, not great, but decent. Better than you're generally going to find back home around the Twin Cities. So we were pretty happy. We still caught fish, and we had a good time. They also sell you ice at an exorbitant rate, and if somebody actually did catch a trophy that they wanted to keep, your trophy cost is going to spike exponentially because they turn their generators off at night. So therefore, you have to buy ice from them to pack your fish in so it doesn't spoil because there's no freezer. So that's cool. So the reason they gave us a beer when we got off is because they can't legally sell beer because they don't have a liquor license. So that was cool. So we're like, well, now we got to go back into town. So midway through the week, at this point, we've kind of figured out we may have been had. This is not as good of a deal as we thought it was.
Now let me ask you this: were there other customers in camp?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there were.
Yeah.
Like full paying customers.
Yep. Full paying customers, and who had all won trips.
Well, now those aren't full-paying customers, Dale. That's what I was asking. Was everybody there on the same ticket as you?
Yes.
Aha.
There were no return customers to this place.
That's what I was.
These are all winners.
That's what I was asking.
So we go in. We already have a pretty bad taste in our mouth for this place. Midweek, you run in. We need a beer run because you can't buy any there, and we didn't think to bring any. And just needed a change of scenery. So we take the boat back to landing. We drive into town. And we go into the local bait shop, and we're striking up a conversation. Turns out the bait shop owner is originally from Wisconsin, so we have a really fun Vikings versus Packers little shit-talking session. He's really cool about it. His wife is a Vikings fan, so he's fully versed in the shit-talking. And he's like, so where are you guys staying? And we said the name of the resort, and he goes, who won the trip? And it was right then and there that all our suspicions had come true. So we had a long conversation with him about how generally the community are not big fans of him. There's a way they operate like that. They don't have return customers. That's how they get people in there is by giving them away trips. And what I say is they're full paying customers, as we were, because they charge twice as much as any other resort in the area. So you didn't actually win shit. Knowing you were going to get somebody and split the cost you split is the same cost as if you went to a different resort without winning anything. So, yeah. But once we realized that, it's like, okay, we're here now. We could piss and moan about it, or we could just go fish. We're still in Canada. It's still beautiful. It's still, let's go fishing and have a good time and make the best of it. And we did. And we're hardcore. It's dark to dark or light to light, however you want to say it. We were up with the sun and we fished till it went down. And in Canada in the summertime, this was July.
So it doesn't get dark till 10:30 at night.
Some long ass days.
Yeah, it's really cool up there. There's days that I'll run. Like, I don't know, you really went off on a wild-ass tangent there.
I'm like an expert at it. If somebody ever get paid for tangents, I would be like a millionaire.
I actually, some days we'll run, we get so busy and so booked that our standard trips run 8 to 4. And there are days there in the peak of summer when I'll actually run a half-day trip after.
Sure.
Because you still have enough daylight.
There's enough light. What else are you going to do?
Yep. And
you're going fishing anyways.
Right. And most days,
most
days I was going fishing after work anyways. A lot of guys ask me, God, has being a full-time guide wrecked fishing for you? And that's kind of my standard answer is if I quit fishing after work, then I'll know.
Yeah,
Then I'll know
sure.
that there are days for sure. If you're
well.
if you're out battling 5-foot waves all day and the fish and the bite's tough. And there's some days you bet you put the boat in the lift and you're done. You're not gonna. But that's not what I mean. If there comes a time when I just don't enjoy it anymore, then I think I can say
I wonder if
guiding has wrecked it. But
I wonder if there's like a graph out there of guides that washed out. I bet it's not that high. I mean, you're not even going to really think about becoming a guide, whether it's fishing or hunting or otherwise, if you don't already really love it. Like, you're not already doing it as much as humanly possible. Why else would you do it?
Yeah, well, certainly not to get rich.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you gotta throw out the old joke, the how to get rich being a fishing guy. You start out with $2 million, or how to be a millionaire. Start out with $2 million.
Start out as a billionaire. Yep. If you want to become a millionaire by fishing, the trick is to start out by being a billionaire.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, no, it's
not wrong.
true. You're not going to get rich, but there's in all honesty, most days I leave the dock for work, and I live. I guess we probably didn't mention I live right on Rainy Lake now. But most days, I got my thermos and I walk down and jump in the boat and I leave the dock just smiling like an idiot. And I don't know how many people.
Well, how else would you smile?
Yeah, well, I don't know how to smile any other way, but how many people get to say that?
Right. And that's kind of my idea in this too. And I thought, I'm not expecting to get rich at this. If I can make a living at it, and we're not pinching pennies, and it's not, and maybe even if we are pinching pennies, it's like if I didn't mind iron work, but I definitely didn't love it at all. Like when it's as cold as it has been up here in Minnesota lately, at 20 below zero, like this is just not fun. When it's 95 degrees and 100% humidity, it's not fun. Like there's not a ton of fun elements. Now, there's some great guys you work with.
For sure.
You get to shoot the shit, and you're working shoulder to shoulder, and you're both, in a shitty job, if you will. But you share that, so there's a camaraderie that comes out of that.
Well, there absolutely is, and that's what I miss the most. Having been, I think the last company I was with, I was there for 12 or 13 years, and there's guys that you come up with, and you working side by side as grunts, and then you kind of get to be foremen together, and there's guys I worked elbow to elbow with for 15 years, and I tell you what, that I do miss. I do miss that coming into work in the morning when it's 3 feet of snow and 20 below zero, and you're saying to yourself, I got to be the dumbest son of a bitch on the planet. And then you look in the parking lot, and there's your work buddies, and they all came to work,
there's
too.
There's a half dozen other dumb sons of bitches.
Yep. Nobody was smart enough to call in.
Go to college, Mom said. Get a real job, Mom said.
Hey, I tell you what, you can't go to college without tradesmen because nobody be around to build them.
Yeah, you got to build that college somehow. World needs ditch diggers, too.
Yep, that's right. That's right.
I don't know about you. You can go to school for 6 years and get out.
Go be a coffee barista.
Couple hundred bucks in the hole with student debt, making $35,000 a year, or you can go to a trade school and pay a couple $100 in tuition and come out, making 50 to 70, depending on how busy the economy is, or more.
I tell you what, I did, and you did, and a lot of guys we made good living in the trades. You can make a good living in the trades.
For sure, it's really good money.
You'll
good benefits.
Probably never gonna own a Ferrari, but you're the owner of your company might.
Yeah, don't tell that to the apprentices when they first get in and they get that first big paycheck. They start shopping for Ferraris.
Let them buy one. You know what?
Every journeyman's like, yo, pump the brakes, bro.
I tell you
it's
what,
not always gonna be like this.
As a foreman, I used to ask the BAs. I'd say, hey, go out in the parking lot, and find the guy with the most expensive car. I'll take him, and the reason being is that guy's got payments.
He has to work.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He's gonna show up every day.
Right.
I don't want some guy with some old rust bucket that says, I don't really feel like it.
Does your boss of your guide company make you go out and buy a brand new boat so you have to go work every day?
So he doesn't. He doesn't make us buy a brand new boat. I'm actually an independent contractor. We all are. But what you'll find on great big bodies of water like Rainy Lake or even Lake of the Woods and big bodies of water like that is those big heavy fiberglass boats. They just if you got to be in it every single day, 10, 12 hours a day, that heavier boat really does help.
It helps a lot. That's how I ended up settling on buying a Ranger. My buddy had a Ranger, and we took it out on Pelican Lake in Orr, Minnesota, and it was a windy day, and there was good 3-footers out there. It was rough, and this thing cut through it. That heavy fiberglass boat, I was like,
yep.
Oh, it was just smooth. I'm like, all the times that I've fished that lake growing up in a 14-foot aluminum boat that weighed 75 pounds,
yep.
just got the shit kicked out of us going across waves like that, and I could hardly feel them in this boat. I was like, I need to have one of these.
Yep, so I'm not going to tell you that. My first full year I ran a Skeeter, 21-footer with a 250 SHO, and now I run a Nitro, a ZV21 with a 350 Mercury, and I'm not going to tell you that it's, you can run 4-footers and 5-footers and you're not going to get beat up, because you're still going to get beat up.
There's still big waves. There's no way around it.
But I mean, I can run over 60 miles an hour in 4-footers.
Yeah.
And that is, if you guys, a lot of guys will come up to Rainy and they bring their 16-foot Lund Mr. Pike, with their 50-horse Johnson and that they say, oh geez, it's just a little. And I say, that's the perfect boat for 99% of water.
Sure.
I mean, that boat is honestly probably more fishable if you go to lots of different places. That boat can get you into potholes, and you can pull up to a boat ramp that's disintegrated and say, well, no big deal. My boat don't weigh nothing, and shoot, away you go.
Yeah. Drag it down a ditch with no ramp.
Right.
If you need to.
Go out to Devil's Lake where there's no boat ramps anymore, because the lake has grown so much, and you can dump it in any ditch. But when you're going to get, Mille Lacs on a windy day, or even, Lake Superior, or any of these great big bodies of water where I've had that Nitro out in over 6-footers, and that solid fiberglass platform is just, when you have to get up and do it tomorrow, and the day after, and then it does not matter what the forecast says. It's not just about having a shiny boat. I mean, there is some function to the shininess.
Yeah. Well, and it doesn't help to make them sparkly. Why? Who decided that bass boats needed to be sparkly?
Well,
who is that guy?
I don't know.
I need to have a talk with this
all
guy.
the fiberglass boats are. I mean, it's not just the bass boats.
Well, I don't know why that is.
Maybe it hides the imperfections in the gel coat a little bit.
Maybe, but you get that oxidation, and there's no hiding it. Anyways, that's completely off topic. But it's like the fishability, like you said, in those boats are great. You can put more people in. They're great for a family. And like for me, I have that Ranger. It really only fishes 2 people really well, and you can fish 3 out of it. You can't really fish much more than that the way it's set up. It's not, bass boats aren't made for family style fishing.
No, I would agree with that. And what, your boat is set up for what you do. You like to musky fish, and you like to bass fish, and you like to cast all day. So,
yep.
You're 2 people slinging, that's probably the best you're going to do. There's an early bite we do up on Rainy where we're casting, and more than 3 people in the boat gets pretty tough.
Pretty sketchy.
Yep.
I don't know how my dad had a family of 4 kids and him in that 14-foot bench seat Alumacraft or Starcraft or whatever the heck it was.
Yeah, but you guys probably weren't casting all day.
Oh, yeah, you know how kids are. You don't have to. If you put a bobber on, what's the first thing they do? They reel it in to cast it out again.
That's true. That's true. See,
like, no. Leave it out there. You got to leave it. And here it comes. Like, no matter how many times you tell them, no, there's casting going on. Trust me, there's casting going on.
We take a lot of kids and
tangles.
And tangles. And I tell you what, a lot of times these kids, they if we're straight up and down jigging a shiner, on structure, if these kids aren't getting bit, they're reeling up every 2 minutes. Just checking my minnow. Yeah. Just checking my minnow. Yeah. And you're like, if you would just leave it down there.
There's grown kids that do that.
Oh, you don't have to tell me.
There are plenty of grown kids that do the same exact thing. So you know,
True story.
It's an experience thing. You know, it's like you don't. If this isn't something you do all the time, you know, what are your expectations of it, or what is your experience with it? Watching it on TV and seeing it in the pictures. You ever see anybody hold up their tally of being skunked in a picture in a magazine? No. There's a guy holding a fish. And they're on Rainy Lake. You go to Rainy Lake, you catch walleyes every other cast, right? I mean, at least every other cast, if not every cast. I mean, a slow day maybe every other.
Well, it's it's funny you say that. It's a great fishery. It fishes kind of complex, which actually probably is what leads to quite a few of our trips. Is that people come up there with their boat, and they so that Bill and Tom they fish somewhere new every year, and this year they're going to give Rainy Lake a go, and so they've got a week booked at the resort, and they get up there, and Rainy Lake can be kind of a head scratcher. It's 4 or 5 very distinct bites over the course of the year, and what you do on Mille Lacs is it may or may not work up there.
Oh, well, more than likely it won't. I mean, you could talk about 2 totally different fisheries.
Correct.
Mille Lacs, for those people that don't know, is a relatively shallow, large lake. What's the max depth in Mille Lacs?
Oh,
48 feet, 45, 48 feet.
Something,
and even those areas are pretty rare.
Very rare. Yep.
Doesn't really happen too much. So most of the lake is, 28 to 30 feet. And, then you have a bunch of reefs spread out throughout it. And then it's a more fertile body of water. It's shallower. Then Rainy, now you're getting into that what they call like the shield, Canadian shield waters.
Yep.
You have pretty infertile water, hard rock shores, not many swamps.
Well, we do. There's actually so Rainy is so unique. It kind of lays out like 4 fingers, and there's North Arm, there's Red Gut area, there's Scene Bay, and then there's the length of the actual lake itself that runs all the way from International Falls to Kettle Falls.
I heard the middle finger is like you just get fucked fishing that one.
It can be difficult. Yep, but I don't see. There's your ironworker math. When there's only 4, there's really no middle.
Well, your thumb's not a finger, bro. It's a thumb.
That's what I'm saying, though. 4
what do they
fingers.
say? They call it the middle finger.
I don't know.
Saying.
I'm
See,
just
this is
saying.
that labor mentality. It's obvious, staring you right in the face.
3rd grade was tough on an ironworker.
Both of them.
Long and hard on an ironworker. They're talking about 3rd grade.
I do. This is one of the things I like, and this is a tangent. But I do love this, like the shit talking that builds between the trades. I absolutely love it, and I always perpetuated it at every moment I could.
Oh, why wouldn't you? It's fun.
It's the best. But some people really take this shit to heart.
Hey, do you remember that Fairview Southdale? You guys had that guy. God, what the heck? He was out on the job site, no vest, no glasses.
Oh, was that the day the fight almost broke
Yeah,
out?
yes. And I had a
there
ground.
was 2 guys out there.
So I had a ground thaw unit hooked up to my crawler crane, and I was moving it, and I had to jump over the wall to go land it. And I went by this guy, and we were the general contractor on the job. So, making sure people have on all the right stuff is kind of our responsibility. So on my way by, I looked at the guy, and I just said, why even bother with the hard hat? if you're not going to follow the rest of the rules, why bother?
Right.
And this guy went.
Oh,
you remember?
Came unglued.
Oh, he came unhinged. And,
And
he kept stepping at me saying, he said, I'm a Gold Gloves boxer. And I said, well, he's trying to tell me he's a professional boxer, MMA fighter or something. I said, well, you must not be real good. You're here tying iron.
Might not have been the right thing to say. I mean, I don't know if they teach you how to diffuse a situation as a foreman, but
I've gotten better. I mean, at that point, I was just dumping gas on the flames. It was entertaining to me.
That's pretty much trying to put out a fire by throwing gas on it right there. Yeah. And for whatever reason, I guess maybe this is across most trades, but as far as ironworking goes, it kind of, for some reason attracts a certain element of society
You
like
can
that.
say it. You can say it, Dale.
I think no.
You-
What's
Dale,
gonna-
you can say it.
okay, you can have a felony and get a job. That's why it attracts that kind of individual. So, anyways, talk about going off on a tangent and a rabbit hole. It means nothing about anything. But that was a pretty funny day. I do remember. Like, actually, another guy I remember left because he came to his, like, backed him up kind of, and he claimed that the adrenaline rush was too much and he couldn't concentrate, so he had to go home too. Okay.
Oh, hilarious! That guy did.
Have fun.
I don't think that he was aware that as a one of the foremans I was allowed to park on site, because he did inform me on his way out the door that he'd be waiting in the parking lot 4 blocks away.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I get off
see
work
you
about
there.
6.
Yeah. You'll have that.
What are you gonna do?
You got to fight through that.
Yep.
That's-
Yep.
I don't know. I assume there's a myriad of personality types within the guiding community too. I mean,
Oh, for sure. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
there's just not as many people. You're probably, your chance of running into, I think you take an average population, you take 100 people, there's at least 1 or 2. So it's a 1 to 200 ratio that they're assholes. Like, it's like, I think.
You think it's that small?
Well, it might be more. I'm trying to be nice. But that's why bigger cities, there's just more assholes. I don't think there's more per capita. I think there just literally are more assholes in bigger cities because there's more people. So, and in the guiding world, there's not that many people.
No,
So
there
your chance
no, there
of
aren't.
running into one is reduced.
Well, the thing with, I tell you what, in all honesty, guiding is, everybody thinks being a fishing guide is about fishing, and it is.
I thought it was about beer drinking.
It is and it isn't. Well, not in my boat. My commercial liability insurance says no alcohol. But typically our trips run from 8 to 4, so you have all afternoon if that's what you want to do.
Can't drink all day if you don't start in the morning.
Well,
If we're
I
going
tell
to
you
break
what,
out old ironwork
that's
sayings,
true. That is an old ironworker saying.
It's not wrong, but it's.
It's not wrong, but then why hire a guide?
Right. No,
If your whole goal
giving
is
you
to get shit-faced drunk and lay on the floor of the boat, well, you can do that in your own boat. Why
Right,
would you pay
right.
somebody $450?
The Vikings on this very lake did something very similar to that.
Was that on this lake?
Yeah, that was out of Eddie's, I believe.
I think that was Alan Alma's on Minnetonka.
Was that Minnetonka?
Pretty sure it was Alan Alma's. Yeah.
Oh, you're actually.
Yep.
I think you're right. There was a different Viking scandal up here.
Yeah. Out of my wheelhouse.
I don't remember which one. Yeah, you're right. That was out Minnetonka. So, God, I hate when a laborer's right now I'm wrong.
Yeah, I would think you'd
Terrible.
be used to it by now.
I'm never get used to it. Whatever.
Anyway,
it is what it
I
is.
guess what I was getting at there was
Yeah.
a lot of people that most people actually think that being a fishing guide is about fishing, and the reality of it is that it's more of a people business
definitely.
than most people would. Is it fun to go out and catch fish? Sure. And is it fun to put people on a bite they've never experienced before? Absolutely. But most days it's about just connecting with other human beings and spending 8-9 hours in the boat together and getting to know each other, and just like anything else in life. I mean, sometimes you hit it off. I mean, it's crazy. So we pick up most of our customers at one of the 3 or 4 resorts on the lake, and we usually sit down, have a cup of coffee, introduce ourselves, kind of go through, hey, what are you expecting today, and what kind of goals have you set, and sometimes immediately you just go, oh God, we're gonna have a blast.
Yeah.
And sometimes you're like, oh my God, this 8 hours can't go fast enough. But sometimes your gut feeling is wrong, and you, at first you're like, oh my God, we have nothing in common, and then you get out there and like some just random thing comes up, and all of a sudden you got something to talk about, and the 8 hours flies by, and you're having a blast. And catching fish is a bonus. But it's not everything. Catching fish, for most people, it actually does not make or break the trip. It's an experience. It's fun to catch fish. It's fun to learn new stuff. But at the end of the day, it's still fishing. It's not a petting zoo.
We talked about this earlier too, but I think it's important to bring up too. Now is the guide and client relationship and how to set realistic expectations, and that meeting with your clients before you actually hit the water, I think is super important.
Yeah,
to kind of iron out those kinds of things, because it's like I said earlier, I went on a tangent, but it applies here. We went to Canada and we were daydreaming about how awesome it was going to be and all these giant fish we were going to catch.
Yeah, you set some unrealistic expectations.
Yeah, so we weren't let down because we knew. I think we knew in the heart of our hearts that we were just having fun daydreaming about like the most epic fishing trip ever
just
possible.
like buying a Powerball ticket.
Yeah, exactly.
$2 to dream.
When it didn't pan out that way, we weren't exactly, it wasn't like we held it against the lake or the area or even the resort, even though we had not the greatest experience with the resort. It wasn't their fault. Like, it's just we didn't have realistic expectations. But I do think if people out there want to hire a guide, ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And we talked about this. I think this is, and be honest about your skill level. I think it's really important to be honest about it, because if you go into it and maybe you think, I want this guy to think I'm better than I am, so you kind of falsely build up your skill level, he's not going to be impressed.
No, and in fact, in the long run, he's going to be irritated.
Do you fish 300 days out of the year? Right. No, you're not going to be as good as this guy.
Right,
I'm just telling you, you're not.
And it
is okay, but just be honest. Like, he isn't looking to be impressed by you. Even if as a guide, you've run the range of skill levels, I'm sure.
Oh boy.
When you had somebody that knew what they were doing, did you talk about it for a week after how great that guy was as an angler?
No. I'm focused.
It doesn't matter.
That's right. I'm focused on today. So here's how I usually go about it. I will contact my trip, if I can, if they're pre-booked. I'll call them 7 to 10 days before their trip and make contact. And Rainy Lake is such an incredible fishery. It's got trophy pike, trophy walleyes, trophy smallmouth. We've got muskies. We have an amazing crappie population. So first
Sturge.
Sturgeon are pretty tough in the lake.
In the lake, yeah.
We'll go to Rainy River if people want sturgeon and they're in season. But the first thing I'll try to establish is what are we going to fish for? What is your goal? How many people? And then I'll ask, what is your skill level? And that's a very important question. I mean, I've had people say, geez, I've been fishing for 30 years and okay, great. Well, then they get up there and they're not even real confident
Is
over.
Is that the minnow moving on your rod there?
Yeah, he's starting to freak out a little bit.
Dancing a little bit.
Yep, there's probably a good sized walleye.
I haven't marked anything since the sun went down.
No, I haven't either.
It's been pretty. We set up on the spot,
I
am
marking fish right now.
Oh, are you? Okay, I'm not marking anything over here. And we were marking fish, and it was weird. Like, we're just gonna a little off tangent here about what we're doing on Mille Lacs. We're in 31 feet of water. We couldn't really get out to where we wanted to get out to because of this fresh snow, and the resorts haven't had the chance to. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. They haven't had the chance to really plow out to some of the further out
to the mud flats. We were trying to get out to the mud
spots,
flats,
but so we kind of went out. We're basically out on the main lake break, if you will.
Yeah, it's a gravel mud transition.
But we started marking fish right away, and these fish were aggressive to a point. Like, you could get these things to chase
5-6 feet.
Like, they're sprinting up to it, but then would just not eat.
Yeah,
we caught a few little ones, but it was like, I don't know how many days I've had like this where they have chased that hard and not bit.
Yeah, for hours.
And we've been changing baits, bigger size, different colors, different styles, rattles, no rattles, and they all pretty much act the same. And then now, since the sun went down, it's been pretty quiet. But I noticed the rod tip over there was bouncing pretty good, so somebody was getting nervous. Anyways, back to
so you'll have people will tell you their experience level, and then when you actually get them out on the water, and you go to hand them a fishing rod and ask what hand they reel with, and they're not real confident, and this is the same guy that's told you on the phone he's been just been a he's a
Fishing since he was
diehard
5.
fisherman and been fishing 20 times a summer for 40 years, and I mean it becomes clear very quickly. So being honest helps me set up how I want to approach the bite today. And if I have a boat full of diehard anglers, that I might actually approach the bite a little different than if somebody is just honest with me and says, hey, I'm a little rusty. I only get to fish a couple times a year, and I understand that. That's awesome.
Fine. You almost expect it.
Yeah,
it's
that's why you're hiring a guide. I tell you what, I my customers have better luck. In all honesty, I'm going to be straight with you, women and kids, because they listen.
Yeah, they're willing to take advice.
They don't have a preconceived notion of what to do. A lot of our bites up there, and this is going to sound crazy, but when it's straight jig and a minnow on structure, they want it held perfectly still. And you'll look over and you'll tell your customers, hey, stop jigging, just hold it. And okay, Captain. And you look back a minute later and they're still jigging, and hey, just hold it still. And I'll actually put mine in the rod holder and start catching fish. And so you walk back and you're like, stop jigging. And they're like, I'm not. And you're like, literally, you grab the fishing pole, and they're trying to jig like through your grip. And you're like, just hold it still. And, they'll hold it still for 30 seconds, and all of a sudden, whack.
I can't.
And they're like, oh, that's what you mean. Oh, you're just like I've been saying for the last 30 minutes.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
So it's like, somebody has a jig on. It's just
bro,
nature.
It's called a jig, bro, not a sit still.
I know. But, another crazy thing is so we have this suspend and jerk bait bite, and you'll tell people, that you really got to let it pause. The pause is critical, and a lot of fishermen know that on those suspend and jerk baits that pause just means everything. And what I found is that, and this is crazy, but smokers catch more fish because they pause longer. They'll pause long enough to take a drag of that cigarette. And sometimes, that longer pause is just what those fish are looking for, and they'll whack it while it's just sitting there. So super interesting dynamics when you get to fish with all kinds of ages and generations of people in one season. You really get to see a lot of stuff.
Totally unprepared. How many things did I forget on this trip? Almost all of them.
Well.
Oh, how did that not fall in the hole? That thing rolled past 3 holes and didn't go in. If that had been a phone, it would have been this hole right here, guaranteed. Yep. There's no monetary value to that bottle cap. It's the only reason it didn't fall.
That's why it didn't go down.
That's the buttered toast philosophy right there.
That is the buttered toast philosophy.
Just didn't happen, but I needed a beer. Anyways, and we talked about this earlier, too, that detecting bites, like there are times where the bite is tough. It comes down to like instinctual when there's a fish on and when there's not, and that's super hard to get across to people that aren't experienced because it's almost, you can't really explain it or describe it. It is something that just comes with experience.
So there's definitely days when fish are neutral or negative, that it is just almost impossible to detect a bite. And I think what I've done and what other experienced anglers do is everyone's waiting for that thump, that typical, jig and a minnow or jig and wrap, or shiver minnow, just that thump, that undeniable, boom, set the hook. And I found on those tougher bite days, that those days when they'll literally just mouth the bait and not move, what I'm focused on and what I'm looking at is just pressure on my rod tip. So
aren't we all? So
you'll be holding it, relatively still, maybe a little jigging, and what I'll do is I'll just lift the tip of just the smallest bit, and if that thing is any sort of...
Yeah, if the line doesn't just come with it.
Yep, if the line tightens at all, even if the line just tightens between your guides on your rod, there's a fish on.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, unless you're snagged, obviously,
Sure,
but
sure.
you know, the structure that we're jigging on is usually rock reefs. So it's such a small cue, and they will drop it so fast that if that line tightens up, even between my guides, I'll go for a hook set. And you know what? Sometimes you look like an idiot. Sometimes it looks like you're on the front of that boat fencing.
Fencing.
And you know, I've made the mistake of telling people hook sets are free.
I say that too, unless you get snagged.
And you know, all of a sudden you got two guys in the back of the boat. Just looks like they're sword fighting. You know, it's like, oh my god, maybe I shouldn't have used that.
Yeah,
that
I was
term.
just gonna say, I always say hook sets are free, but most of the times they're free.
Yep.
Sometimes they cost you money if you, especially like you're jigging. You got a big jig on for bass, and you're pitching in timber, and you really do a proper bill dance where it's from your tiptoes
coming right out of your shoes
to the sky.
Yeah.
If it's not a fish, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to bury that hook deep into the wood you're flipping, and you're not getting that bait back, chances are. Or
going out of the boat.
You're going to have to pull a Neo from the Matrix and dodge that 3/4 ounce jig as it zings past your face. Because generally you're in shallow water when that happens. But, yeah, hook sets are generally free.
Hook sets are generally free.
It's worth trying. I'll put it that way. But then with walleye fishing, you're generally not doing that bill dance kind of a set either. It's a snap of the wrist.
Yep.
You know, quick. Burr,
yep. Well,
and
you know, I don't know. I put a little more into it.
Well, you're probably compensating.
Well, I would say overcompensating. I am Irish.
I don't know what that means, but
you'll find out. Have another beer. You'll find out.
Oh, no. There was an English ironworker that I worked with who, if he got drunk enough, would get naked from the waist down.
Oh,
I've heard stories, but I have thankfully
please.
never seen it myself. It did happen one night when I was drinking with him, but I left in time to not actually witness it, so I'm pretty proud about that.
Are you referring to Rob?
Shh. I can't say names.
Oh, we can't say names?
It's Rob. Nobody knows his last name.
Did you know one time I asked him, it must have been July 3rd.
I should get him on this podcast just so people can hear him talk, and I bust his balls. I ran it out. So I did an inspector gig in between ironworking and guiding.
I can't even imagine who'd be dumb enough to hire you as an inspector, but carry on.
Well, okay, I'll go back to that. But so I ran into him on a job, and you know, it was great to meet up with him and talk and shoot the shit with him, as we worked together quite a bit when I first started, and when I was an apprentice. But I like to bust his nuts because he still has that English accent. How long have you been in this country?
Yeah, and he's been here forever.
Like, we know you're faking at this point. Like, the chicks, they're not that impressed. Which actually isn't true. Chicks are a sucker for a foreign accent. But
they really are.
What are you going to do? Anyways.
Well, Dale, you could go to another country where then you would have the foreign accent.
Good. Does it work in Canada?
No, no, it doesn't.
Take off, Take off your bra, That probably doesn't work either. But
not with the dudes.
There's some dudes that probably should wear bras, but I don't think a lot of them do. All right, so what else you got cooking over there? You just so you brought up a couple rods for me to try out from JT?
Yeah, JT Outdoor Products. Yep. So I pro staff for them. They brought me on board here about 2 years ago. I don't know. I think we make the best rods on the market, long rods and ice fishing rods.
I feel from what I've used so far today, I mean, they're really balanced. You can tell that the craftsmanship is there. They're really well built. I like the balance on them.
Something we do that's a little different than most is so they've actually dropped custom from their names now. It's just JT Outdoors. It used to be JT Custom Rods, and just too many people got into the mindset that custom rods meant a certain thing, that it meant, you know, I can have purple and green wraps and I can get my name on it.
Yeah.
And the custom that goes into JT rods is the engineering of the blank design itself. So all of our rods are designed, well, I shouldn't say all because we came out with the Rogue now. the main focus of all of our rods is a pure parabolic curve, which
There's a fish down there. Keep talking.
which most rods don't have. Most fishing rods, you're fighting the fish with the 7 to 10 inches, at the tip. And if you look at a JT rod under load, you'll oftentimes see that. Dale, if you look over here.
Oh, sorry, I got a fish.
See how the load
yeah.
runs all the way back to the backbone.
Yep.
Whereas most rods will bend that first 7 to 10 inches, two eyelets.
The first couple eyelets, yeah.
And that's that what that does is that really absorbs head shakes and direction changes really, really well, because you're fighting all the way into the handle of the rod, and not just that last little bit where if a fish makes real violent head shakes, they can come unpinned. That's why I like them. They're feathery light. They're Toray carbon fibers. We get a lot of people say, oh, blanks are foreign, the blanks are Chinese, and that's nonsense. They're all blanks are either Chinese or Japanese.
Well, these are being made in somebody's shop.
Right
in Minnesota.
Yeah,
these aren't coming from China.
So no, the blanks themselves do come from China or from Japan. But they are hand built, hand assembled, and I know this because the days I'm not guiding here on Mille Lacs in the winter, I am actually working down in the rod shop. So they're completely aligned, handles assembled and put on, wrapped, epoxied. We use a 2-stage epoxy. Most places just hit it with 1 layer of epoxy. We do it twice. What do you got there?
I done jigged my minnow head
I've found that success ratio goes up significantly when you have bait.
Exponentially.
Good word.
It does.
Boy, for you, that's really something.
I know, for an iron worker.
For an iron worker, that's really something.
One of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong, which is why I'm not an iron worker anymore. That's not the only reason, but.
But yeah, I don't know if you want to give any of these JT rods a try. I tell you what, I
definitely do. You brought me one panfish rod.
Yep, that's the Rogue. That's 32-inch Rogue. That was a new release this year. So that's a noodle rod.
I'm not really going to get to use that tonight while we're out here. So I'm actually, it sucks because these fish they haven't touched any of our dead sticks. And you talked these rods up when you got here, and you kind of showed me the action. I want to see one in action, and the fish are just being assholes right now, and they're not cooperating.
Yeah, it's been it was 40 below zero last night, so
true.
Been for those of you that don't know, or if you're not Minnesota listeners, it has literally been colder the last 3 days in the state of Minnesota than it has been in the last 40 years.
The best way I've heard it put, and I feel like people that aren't from the upper Midwest, because, Chicago, they were pretty cool too. Only 5 or 10 degrees warmer, if you can even call that warmer. So this cold blast was a pretty big swath. But I feel like the people from south, we say 30 below zero, 50 below wind chills. I feel like they think we're just making shit up. It's because they have no... that is so out of the realm of possibilities.
Oh, yeah. And it's unimaginable.
To them, there's just nothing for them to even to compare it to. The best way I heard it put lately was it was literally 60 degrees warmer in your refrigerator the last few days.
Well, I would go so far. Let's see, 40.
Or your freezer.
Yeah, your freezer. That's more accurate.
Yeah, 50 degrees warmer in your freezer.
That's more accurate. Yep.
70 degrees warmer in your refrigerator.
Yeah, right. Right. That's accurate. Yeah, I don't know who came up with that. That's
Why do
brilliant.
we live here?
Ice fishing.
Right. Well, that's the thing. People are like, oh, they'll brag like, oh, well, it's 65 degrees here today. And then, yeah, how's the ice fishing?
Terrible.
Fucking sucks down there. It's bad. The marlin fishing, it's usually a lot better down there than it is up here. Oh, let's not dump the recorder in the. That was almost me. I tugged on my microphone.
I got it.
Let's not dump that down a hole. That'd be shitty. So back to the custom rod. So these ones here, we had the dead sticks on. What are these ones?
So that's called a snare rod. We have a walleye snare and a panfish snare. And it's what it is. It's basically it's a rod with a super slow action. And what that does is and people can search this online. We actually just did a really cool 2-camera video that shows the bait and then the rod tip side by side in one video, where it actually shows you exactly how the action works. But typically, when a walleye eats, it'll grab a bait by it'll T-bone a bait or eat it by the head, and it will swim away a foot, 18 inches. Generally, it will then turn that bait in their mouth to swallow it, and slowly swim away looking for their next meal. Well, this rod's it can almost pull the tip down 18 inches to 2 feet before you hit the backbone. So generally what happens is those walleyes will eat, and you'll see the rod tip start to bend and start to curl down, and then it will stop. And generally that's when the walleyes shifting that bait in their mouth, and then those walleyes swim away looking. Well, that all of a sudden that rod hits the backbone, and those walleyes feel that tension. Well, because they've already spun the bait in their mouth, instead of spitting the hook, they just dart. And generally what happens is they do set the hook themselves, hence the name the snare rod.
Sure.
So it works very similar to a snare. These were in development for 4 or 5 years from some very, very big name guys in the industry. I mean, it's a genius design. It's executed. So what you're looking at right now is your
I'm pointing at my rod right now because it hasn't been bouncing. The minnow's doing his job. Actually, I have a really small minnow on this one too, if you remember right.
Yep. Yeah, you put just a fathead on that one.
Yeah,
Actually.
the smallest one is more of a crappie minnow than it is even a fathead.
Yep.
And this thing is bouncing right now. So there's somebody down there. And even if there isn't a fish down there making this thing nervous. And I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass because you're here and this is what you're thinking. I'm giving people right now a real time, kind of a play-by-play of what I'm seeing on this rod. How sensitive that tip is. It's almost like a spring bobber. Like, this is a small minnow and it's bobbing the tip of that thing.
Oh yeah, yeah. It actually is yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. So a lot of times if you're watching it closely, you'll see that you'll see your minnow's activity.
God, I hope a fish eats that thing. I want to see one in action so I can give it an honest review.
I hope so too.
So I can see how it loads up and how it works. And if it goes, I'm just going to let it go. I want to see it work.
Yep, let it go. That's what it's set up for. I actually use these remotely more often than I very rarely have them in the house. I use them. So the reason I use them is and I'll use them in conjunction with a JT Outdoors hot box. And what that hot box does, that's a little propane lantern in a box that will keep your holes open.
No, that's not totally enclosed. That stays open.
Yep.
That heater just
Yep.
Keeps it
So
rocking.
it's a little radiant heater in there. I mean, down to 30, 40 below zero. Keeps
that's
the holes
nice
wide
when
open.
you can just pick up a rod and not have to hand over hand like most like a tip up set line where, and even in the house here, I use rattle reels at night. Which is, for people that don't know, it's just a spool, has a little, like, a cat toy bell in it, basically, that jingle, jangle, jingles when the spool spins and lets you know, wakes you up, lets you know a fish is running with the line.
It's pretty much the greatest sound in the world to any Minnesota boy.
It is the best sound ever. But you had a hand over hand, and there's line flying all over, and you get tangles, and it's, you're the drag. You, as the fish runs, you got to let line slip through your fingers, and you got to, there's no rod taking that energy. It's on you.
There's no mechanism
and the line to make sure you're not putting too much stress in that line and letting it go when it needs to go and pulling it up when it. So it's not as good as a rod and reel, and it's not as fun. I like the rod and reel and the drag and
sure
reeling it up. It's cleaner. It's better. It's awesome. So that would be really cool.
But there is no sound in the world to equal
no,
a
there
rattle
isn't. In
reel.
fact, you can get like line alarms, like a lot of people will use. They'll put they'll put an actual rod in a rod holder like we have here, and they'll put the line up in a little clip. When the fish takes the bait, the line separates. It makes an electric connection, and then you get a sound. That not
Terrible.
Nearly as much fun to wake up to than it is to just go clink, 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 clink. That's awesome. I actually have an idea.
Oh boy!
That I shouldn't. I'm not going to share it. I'm not going to share it because somebody's going to steal it. It's $1 million. No, it's not $1 million idea. It might be a couple $1,000 idea.
Everyone listening is happy that you didn't expound.
in general about anything true. It's my podcast. I'll talk about what I want to.
That's true.
Thank you very much.
That's true. You can actually. You're probably going to go home and just edit me right out of it.
Hell no!
It's just Dale.
No, that is definitely not. That is definitely not what I want. I'll never get listeners if it's just me. That's terrible.
true.
I don't even like. Believe it or not, I don't even like listening to me. Yeah, that's not true. I'm totally lying right now. That's not true at all. So what else can we talk about? JT rods. So long rods. So for summer, you make summertime rods. You said.
Yep. We make so we have a line of panfish rods that's called the JT Panhandler. They come in 610 and 71.
I want a 7-1.
They are so we do a lot of crappie fishing on Rainy Lake, and they're a great rod. In fact, they have a little bit slower action as well. And I found that a lot of times I will almost always put a rod in a rod holder and so use it as an extra line while I'm baiting hooks, while I'm tending to customers' lines, taking pictures, netting fish, so on and so forth. And there are days that that panhandler in the rod holder catches more fish than anybody jigging. It loads up really, really sweet. It almost works like one of these snare rods. It's
I'll have to check them out. I have a hard time with I love pan fishing, especially early in the spring when they come into the shallows. It's just fun. I mean, they bite readily.
Oh yeah.
On ultralight tackle, it's a good fight. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy doing that. But I like the longer rods, and it's hard. Like out of just the box stores, it's hard to find a longer ultralight.
Yeah, it is tough.
They're like 5 feet long.
Yep.
Like what? And
Yep.
why is this thing so tiny?
Yeah, I tell you what, that 7-1 has been insane.
You can cast a light lure a lot farther with the longer rod. I don't understand. I feel like it's counterintuitive to have a 5-foot ultralight.
Well, Dale, most people aren't casting with an ultralight. They're fishing it with a straight up and down jigging, or they've got a slip bobber.
They need to grow up.
Well,
and they need to, put the Snoopy rod down.
Dale,
and graduate.
Dale. 2 plus 2 is 4, but so is 3 plus 1. Sometimes there's more than one way to do
blowing
something.
my mind with this math.
I know. If you forget you're an iron worker.
Was an iron worker.
You'll always be an iron worker, Dale.
That's the Marines. You're mixing it up with the Marines.
No, I actually have respect for Marines.
Oh, ouch. Ow. Ow, that one almost hurt. If I had a feeling, you would have heard it.
Yeah. But we also have a pretty wide assortment actually of rods. We have JTX line, which is a fantastic rod for jigging and rigging applications. We have a 7.3 JTX, which was designed as a rigging rod. We have our Black Rain series, which is we have bait casters and spinning rods. I'd like to get one of those 7.3 bait casters in your hands for this summer, because I think you'll be fascinated with it. And we have a line of trolling rods called the Ascendants, which
what's trolling?
Well, Dale, that's for people that are once again good with math.
They have downtime. Trolling is so boring.
It's not if you're catching fish.
Yeah, well, then you're catching. How about those days when they're not biting and you're dragging a Lindy rig around for 8 hours to catch a 14-inch walleye?
Well, sometimes I tell you what, on days you ain't catching nothing, you're pretty happy to catch a 14-incher.
That's true. I just like to bust walleye fishermen's balls.
I know, but they say.
Even though what are we doing right now?
Well, right now we're just
walleye fishing.
We might as well be sitting in a parking lot in this thing right now.
I've never caught a fish in a parking lot once, ever.
Well, that just tells me you're not that great a fisherman.
Wow. Well, you know what? I'm willing to put some money down that. I want you to go catch fish in a parking lot, and not down a manhole cover either. I've seen that video.
Now you're throwing all these stipulations on there.
When you must not have been a laborer very long, because you might be the first laborer that ever said stipulation.
Well, I've always had a good vocabulary.
So they let you in anyways. That's cool. That must be why that's how they knew you were the foreman.
That's why I was the boss. No, I was just the only one dumb enough to show up first every day.
Well, when we first met, we talked fishing. You were like big. You were like only muskies as far as I could.
Yep, that's right.
Gather you were a dyed-in-the-wool muskie guy.
Yeah, so that was a period in my life where I was absolutely obsessed obsessed with muskie fishing.
It's an obsessive kind of sport.
Oh, it's so
You have
bad.
to be, because to be able to go out there,
so
talk about
bad.
not catching fish.
Yep.
Day to day and not catch a muskie is the norm. But here's I try to explain this to people, like the difference between because I'm busting walleye fishermen's balls
Sure.
for dragging a lindy rig all day and not catching any fish or a little fish or whatever. You can do the same thing muskie fishing, but it's that this could be the cast, or this, if you're trolling, this could be the pass where you catch a 55-inch fish. There are no 55-inch walleyes in the universe.
No, but
I'm aware of.
There are 30 inches, and
There are 30 inches, and 30 inches is cool. But if I'm putting a 30-inch walleye on the cool scale next to a 55-inch muskie, they don't weigh the same. I'm taking that 55-inch muskie every time. The fight is better. The strike is generally better. It weighs more. It looks way better in a picture.
Okay, only one of those things is fact. The rest are opinion. It weighs more.
Bro, my opinions are facts. You're gonna have to learn to know that.
Oh,
That's just what it is.
goodness.
I'm right.
Well,
everyone else is
folks,
wrong.
it's been nice being on the podcast. If you've enjoyed this one, there are several others you might enjoy that will still be on the air.
No, come on. A big walleye, they're awesome. Don't get me wrong. I haven't caught a 30-incher yet. It's on my to-do list. That's like my baseline for a wall mounter is a 30. 27.5 is my 3/4 is my biggest to date. They're great. They're super fun to catch. I caught a 27.5 this year on Mille Lacs. It was a long, skinny one. He didn't have much girth, big head on it, but great fight on these short rods. Took me for a couple runs, but the few times I've hooked up with a large muskie, it's just not the same. Like that, the strength isn't the same. Like you feel that it's not a longer fight. I mean, muskies tap out pretty quickly.
Usually pretty quick.
Especially when you're using tackle designed for them.
Yep.
They tap out pretty quick, but it's a lot to handle. It's like chaos for a couple minutes.
Yeah,
like
I don't deny that. Dale, I was a muskie guy. I mean, you don't have to talk me into it. But
it's more describing to people that may not.
The argument, though, that a 55-inch muskie is more of a pinnacle than a 30-inch walleye, I will argue with you all day long. I think a 30-inch walleye would fulfill way more fishermen's dreams than a 55-inch muskie.
We're just gonna have to agree to disagree on this.
All right.
We need numbers. We need stats. How many 30-inch walleyes have been caught versus 55-inch muskies? It'd be interesting.
Ooh.
It might actually be more muskies, if I'm being honest, but I think more people target.
Right.
It's a trophy fishery. I mean,
right.
How many people are going out only to target the biggest walleyes in any watershed?
But you're not going out to target only the biggest muskies,
You
Dale.
generally are.
No, you're not.
You're throwing giant baits.
Well,
no one's out there.
Big deal. But 30-inch muskie will eat a 16-inch crankbait. So you can say you're fishing for only the biggest, but you're going to catch others.
Yeah, there's not too many people that are going to downsize to get the finicky muskies to bite and weed through.
Okay, you know what? That one I'll give you. That one I'll give you.
You're not going, hey, these half-ounce fireball jigs aren't working. Let's go down to a 1/4 inch or a 16th ounce with a leech under a float for walleyes.
You'd be surprised the difference going from one size jig to the next will make, though, honestly.
I wouldn't be surprised because I've seen it and done it. It makes we've tried today. We've had these chasers
that's true.
Run all over the place, and we've tried different colors, different styles of spoons, rattles, no rattle. Small minnows. We have a medium sucker on, big shiner. I went down to a crappie minnow. It's not. It doesn't seem to matter today. They're just not. They're almost switched on. The weather's warming up, so I'm hoping it turns on this weekend.
Tomorrow's gonna be the key, I think.
I'm hoping for you because you got clients tomorrow, so they're staying in the Yeti.
I'm hoping for them.
I hope they catch a bunch of fish. This might be a day spot. Generally in this lake, the shallower spots are your night spots.
Yep.
And we're in 31 feet, so I'm not entirely surprised that the bite died down once the sun went down, but With that said, this lake has been on fire this year, and you can almost drill a hole anywhere and catch a fish.
It sure seems like it.
Doesn't it?
It sure seems like it.
It's been a good year for Mille Lacs, and it will be a circus this weekend with the nice weather. People have been cooped up in their house all week with well below zero high temperatures, and it's going to be 40 degrees Sunday, 30-something on Saturday.
I guarantee you see somebody in shorts and a tank
circus.
top. Yeah, almost undeniable.
Made the car. I saw a comment or a meme on Facebook. Someone said, no matter how the temperature, whatever it was, and they're like, I guarantee you, there's a white person jogging in this shit somewhere. And no sooner did I see somebody post a picture of them after their run with their eyebrows frosted. And there she is.
Yep. Not me. I'll be at Dairy Queen.
So cold. See that? I do not talk about off subject, but I do not crave ice cream in the winter.
What?
I just don't.
Oh, man.
Well, look, should we compare waistlines?
If you want to.
There's a reason.
If you want to. They say the most muscular guys do turn into a little flabby when they get older. So that's why you have no flab.
That's true. I mean, you got to carry that weight around. You're going to be, I'm not carrying a permanent fanny pouch around, so why would I be stronger? I don't have to work that hard.
That's true.
You got extra insulation.
That's right.
It works better that way. Does JT make a muskie rod?
They do not currently.
I was
going to
ask you if it's in the works.
I am not at liberty to say whether whether or not there has been a prototype developed. I would say not.
No. Just to cover your ass.
I like to be mysterious.
Just to cover your ass. No, I'm interested in that. Is it like a flip and stick? The bait cast rod.
So the Black Rain is it's a 7'3". It's a medium heavy. It's got a fast tip, maybe extra fast. I don't remember right offhand. Unfortunately, when you get into guiding, you tend to go fish for what the customers want to fish for.
Yep.
And I kind of thought I'd have all this spare time to go muskie fish up on Rainy and time to kind of do the things that I like to do. I mean, don't get me wrong. I like to walleye fish. I've actually developed quite a love for it.
No, for as much as I like to bust walleye guys' balls, it is fun. It's just one of those. It's like the labor versus ironworker thing.
For sure.
I like the shit talk aspect of it.
You like the rhetoric.
It's just fun. I don't have any actual animosity towards
of course
walleye
not.
fishermen.
No.
It's just fun for them to go.
You've just got the same 6 lines you've been using for 20 years.
Those. How about the walleye fishermen? It's like, God made bass fishermen or bass so everybody could catch fish, and then God made walleyes for a man or whatever the fuck it is, something like that.
It's pretty accurate, actually.
It's pretty bullshit, but whatever. I'm gonna be happy not being a man and catching fish while you struggle to catch a 14-incher. That's cool.
We actually don't catch many 14-inchers up there.
Rainy's a great fishery. It really is, and you're not gonna find a much more picturesque.
No, it's
place.
A lot of folks
Gorgeous
don't realize that Voyageurs National Park, which Rainy Lake is part of, is the only water-based park in the national park system.
Is that right?
That is right. There are a couple hundred boat-in only campsites. So for us, and this is how I kind of learned the area is it's such a cool thing to do is throw your tent and your coolers and your sleeping bags and stuff and load a boat up and you boat out and you find a campsite and spend 3-4 days, and generally the campsites are really well spaced. So it's you in the wilderness. It's there's
Do they have bear boxes out
there?
They
do. Yep, they absolutely do. They have bear boxes at every campsite.
So bear box, if nobody's ever heard that term, there are lots of bears in northern Minnesota. And you can't just leave food out everywhere because Yogi's going to come in and help himself to it. So there'll be like a steel box for you to put your food in that protects them protects your food from the bears, which is you know,
And
could be
and
a
in
weird
the long
thing for people, but
in the long haul protects you from theirs. You don't want black bears getting accustomed to coming into campsites and looking for an easy meal.
no. And a mistake a lot of people make is I don't know why they do this, but they'll put their cooler inside their tent. Worst possible scenario.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
He's coming into your tent, and he's not coming in to kill you or do like he just wants your donuts. Like,
correct.
Why did you do that?
So I knew a guy a couple years ago that.
Oh, I have a fish down here.
Oh, catch that fish.
I'm working on it.
So I know a guy a couple years ago that unbeknownst to him, his kid had left 2 Snicker bars in the glove box of the boat. And sure enough, that night while they were in the tents, the bears came and destroyed their boat looking for those candy bars. So you want to keep all your food in the bear lockers.
We camped one time and woke up in the middle of the night, and I could hear one right outside the tent, snorting and sniffing around. And I don't think we had any food in the tent. If I remember right, it was in one of our vehicles. We didn't do the thing where you're supposed to, use ropes and string your food up.
Yep.
We didn't do that. I think it was just in the trunk or the back seat of the car or something. But there was obviously enough food smells around that he was checking it out.
For sure.
I mean, I could hear this thing. I was separated from this bear by however thin the walls of this tent were. And as a teen, I think I was probably low teens or maybe 10 to 13, somewhere in there. It's fairly unnerving, Now I'd be like not too worried about it, as bears generally don't want anything to do with you. Black bears in Minnesota, that is.
No, that's true.
It's not like a grizzly, somewhere. It's not like a black bear in grizzly country. Black bears in grizzly country are quite a bit more aggressive. But in Minnesota, they really don't want anything to do with people. You're kind of a food source. That's pretty much, and if they can get it without running in contact with you, that's their preferred method. But he was sniffing around, snorting, and whatever. And I still had presence of mind to reach over and fumble for that fillet knife just in case. I was ready to defend my family as a 12-year-old going to town with this bear, but he moseyed on. But he left his calling card. You couldn't have more perfectly centered that thing in the zipper door of our of our tent. There was a bear pile.
Nice.
Right there, perfectly centered in the door. So like he just wanted to let us know, it'd be cool if you'd leave me something next time. Which we didn't. So that's my really only bear run-in story as far as camping goes, which is pretty substantial. So I've camped quite a bit. And there are a shit ton of bears in Minnesota.
There are.
In northern Minnesota, let's be clear.
Correct. Well, yeah, even down to East Central. East Central Minnesota's got plenty of bears.
Yeah, for sure. Well, what else? If people want to find you there, Donnie, how do they go about doing so?
You can find me on Facebook at Obert's Angling Adventures. It's OBERTS.
Are you on Instagram?
Yeah, I was under Obert's Angling Adventures on Instagram as well, and I ended up falling down my stairs to the dock, crushing my phone, and for some reason I was able to get everything back except my Instagram. I cannot get into my Instagram.
Work on that. That's kind of the biggest
I
platform
know.
right now.
It's so frustrating, and there's literally nothing I can do. I have tried and tried and tried, and I've tried to forget your password, and I think what happened is in the midterm I had opened another one just under Captain Donnie. And when I send the, I forgot my password nonsense, it just immediately switches me to my other account. And it's like, I don't know what to do. I'm
just make that one the new one. I think you can change the name on it.
Well, maybe.
You're going to lose some content, but
it's just frustrating. I had almost 2,000 followers,
yeah.
and it's just gone to the wind.
That
so
sucks.
I'm under Captain Donnie now. I haven't posted any material on there for a long time. I probably should start again.
Yeah, I'm bad with that. We talked about that earlier, too. It's just putting out content.
I'm pretty good on Facebook.
Definitely need to do more of that.
So you can find me there. You can also find me and the rest of the guys that I work with at Rainy Days Guide Service.
Come on.
Facebook or Rainy Days Outdoors.
Let's get one right at the end of this podcast. Come on, fish.
Oh, are we done?
Be famous. Well, we don't have to be.
That's
but
okay. I got better.
I
shit
knew. I was
do
trying to
anyway.
wrap it up because you said you had somewhere. If you don't have anywhere to be, we can keep this thing rolling.
No.
Talking about fishing is what I like to do. So, do you? Well, let's get it while we're on the subject of how they can get a hold of you. So, is there a number or something for rainy days, or they have a website? Give them the information.
Yep. So actually, you can call me direct, and on my Facebook page there's a message me button, or you can call me direct. 612-205-6463, and if you want to come up and check out Rainy, even if you're coming up for a week or so and just want a guide for the first day to kind of show you around. And
that's a good way to do it.
Show you some spots to fish. I tell you what, it's a huge lake, and there's a ton of spots with no fish.
There's also spots you should avoid.
Yep.
Unless you want your lower unit replaced.
Yep. So, if you want to even if you just want to talk fishing, give me a shout or message me up. And
yeah, I want to touch on that real quick, though. Like, for people that you have your equipment, and like I am a DIYer at heart, and I like to figure things out myself and do it. But when you go to places like Rainy, a large area, or maybe it's not a style of fishing you do in general, it seems like a lot of money to some people to hire a guide for the day, but you're going to shorten that learning curve down exponentially. Like, it's going to really help you. If nothing else is going to, what are they biting on right now and where? What is going on there? Did you do that?
yeah, I think that was
Don't get me fired up like that.
I think that was
There
the
is a
cord
fish
for my
down there.
headset. Yeah, I know. I was just marking one.
He doesn't want to come off the bottom. I don't know if it's a eel pout or what, but don't be afraid. And maybe if you're going to take a trip like this, budget that money in as part of the expense. A few $100 to really, you get that guide first day, and you got the rest of the week to go on your own and your own equipment, and that just gives you such a big head start.
Yeah, it's like you said, it shortens the learning curve.
Massively shortens the learning curve.
So even if you don't go back to the exact same spots, a day with a guide is showing you the type of structure.
Yes.
It's showing you what to look for on your graph. It might be a completely new technique, or it might be using a lure in a way it would have never crossed your mind to use that way. You can learn so much.
A lot from a dummy.
Yep, you can learn a lot from a dummy, and that's all I am, is just a guy who, honestly, all I am is a guy that always loved to fish more than I love to work.
Well, and realistically, you're on the water.
Yep.
Every day. So you're going to know what the current bite is and what's going on. And you can be a very accomplished fisherman in your own right as somebody that, again, like, it's not a sign of weakness. It's not a knock on your skill level to hire a guide. It's just going to help you in the long run.
Yeah, so there's like a level of...
Now you're going to enjoy the other 4 days of your 5-day stay on your own, and now you know what to look at. And I think a lot of fishermen get stuck with, like you said, you don't have to fish that spot per se.
Correct.
You take that spot, and then you look at the map, and you just replicate that.
You got it.
And then you can find, if it worked here,
find
another spot looks just like it. It's going to work there.
You got it. So a great example this summer, I had a really, really sweet pattern in a specific spot, pulling rigs. And I probably spent 5 or 6 days just pounding this spot. And it started to slow up a little bit. And so I had my customers, and, we were on plane, going probably 60, 62 miles an hour, just ripping. And so as I'm going, I always have one graph zoomed out a little bit so I can kind of look at structure and islands and points and reefs and stuff as we're running. And I saw the identical type of structure. And I immediately canned the throttle down, hard left, got up on this shelf, dropped lines, and because it was the exact same scenario, we just pounded them there. We pounded them.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there just giggling. My customers like, "Oh gosh, Captain, you must fish here all the time to fish." And I just smiling like, these people have no idea. I just
on a whim.
Yeah, right.
But it wasn't on a whim, though.
It wasn't on a whim. It was an educated guess.
Yeah.
But I didn't even graph it. I
just
thought
this looks like that spot.
Yep. The wind
It
is
should
hitting
hold
it the
fish.
exact same. The current's coming through here the exact same. It's a shelf at the same break in height.
In
It's
general,
a flat
sportsmen-
spot on a sharp contour. It's got a hold, and it did.
And I'm going to say in general, as sportsmen in general, because it's the same for hunters and fishermen. Because say you fish the past or you hunt the past. Just because you've caught them this way on this spot before doesn't necessarily mean they'll be there. Don't get so stuck in your ways. So what's working now, and this goes in, and I'm not trying to just promote guiding because I'm a guide and you're a guide. Like this isn't a car sales pitch. It literally is. Like I've been on the other end of it. I hire guides when we go out. I have a trip planned with my brother in the Keys. First day we have a guide.
Yep, same.
It's going to show us what's
Same.
going on, where to find them. It just makes sense.
You learn more in 8 hours than you could figure out in a week by yourself.
This is what this guy does
Yep.
day in and day out. So, if you're out there and you're listening, it's like, try not to get caught in that rut of, especially if it's not working. If you caught fish in this spot before, doing this very same thing, that's great. That is, at some point in time, that's going to repeat itself. But if you're there and it's not working, and you're actually saying to yourself or your buddies, like, I don't understand it. I come here and I usually hammer them right here in this spot, doing this exact same thing. Okay, listen to what you're saying. It has worked, but it's not working right now. So go try something different. Like, it's not like, what do you have to lose to try something different? You're not going to catch any less fish. You're already not catching fish. So go try something different.
Yeah, so that's a real common. That's probably the most common mistake that you come to realize after you fish every day is that people fish memories.
For sure.
They don't fish the conditions. So like for example, Rainy Lake is really wind driven, and if you're not in the wind, you are not. And if that
it sucks to fish in the wind, but that's where the fish are going to be.
Generally,
there's a current
that's where the fish are
being kicked up. The shallow, the waves are going to kick up the bottom sediment. If you want to talk about the whole life cycle, the whole food chain,
but I don't think you got to get that in depth. But just the main point of focus there is so even day to day, you know. Okay, we were here yesterday, and this is what we did, and we pounded them. Well, overnight, you know, the barometer dropped, the temperature dropped, the wind switched 180 degrees. Now it's ripping out of another direction. You can't, you can get up and just go fish the same spot, but likely you are not going to have the same results.
Yeah.
You know, so then to just sit there all day and say, well, sooner or later.
I guess they're just not biting today.
Right. Fish the conditions. Hunt the conditions, not the memories.
Absolutely.
Yep. That is the biggest mistake that I see.
Don't be afraid to try things.
Yeah.
Especially if it's not working. Especially if what you're doing is not working. You literally have nothing to lose.
You have nothing to lose.
You can't catch any less fish than what you're catching right now.
If you're not catching
you can't shoot any less ducks.
Correct.
Go try something. Go think outside the box. I read this article one time. It talked about going really big. So throw on a bait that when you look at it, you're like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, throw on a bait big enough people laugh at you.
Try it. Then, you know, to bring up a real life story, I remember fishing my old man on the Pelican River, and I had a long Rapala, you know, like what are those, like the 6-inch ones, and it was. I put it on, and he was mocking me, basically. He's like, what are you going to catch with that? And I just kept throwing it, and this, at that time, the biggest smallmouth I've ever seen in my entire life followed this bait up. I couldn't believe my eyes. This thing was huge. My heart stopped. I was just like, holy crap. Now, I didn't end up catching said fish, but kind of made my dad eat his words a little bit, you know, because smallmouth will do that. They will chase that thing. And of course, if I'd have knew then what I knew now, as far as like how to work a bait, how to work a jerk bait, you know, maybe I triggered that fish into biting, maybe I don't. But it doesn't change the fact that just because we've never done it before doesn't mean it's not going to work today. Like, try things. You're already not catching fish. You have nothing else to lose. Go really small. Go ultralight. I mean, I can't tell you how many big bass I've caught in the springtime fishing for panfish in the shallows on a tiny 32nd ounce flu jig, and I'm catching a 4 or 5 pound bass on it. Like, why are they eating it? I don't know, but he ate it. So, I file that in my bag of tricks. If I'm out if it's early in the season or post front or something, and I'm fishing a tournament, and my regular stuff or what I was using in pre-fishing isn't working, maybe I throw on a little jig, a tiny panfish jig, and see what happens. I'm not catching any less fish. I'm already not catching fish. I honestly have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Maybe it works. Maybe I stumble on something that nobody else is doing, and I come back to the landing with a bag full of fish, and I'm the only one. Okay, that hasn't panned out, but it could. That's as a tip to people out there. Just don't get stuck in your rut. Like you said, fish the weather, fish the conditions. And I'm terrible at keeping logs. I really should keep logs because these fish are, it's science. They're creatures of habit too. So if you can replicate, I know Ian Fisherman was one of the first people to really kind of come down to the kind of the pattern, figuring out a pattern and replicating that pattern. But it does hold up. If you can keep really good logs and you can refer to those logs, if the temperature is this, it's this time of year, all the condition boxes are checked off, chances are you can replicate that success again. Because a fish is a fish. I mean, it's a walleye is a walleye. They do walleye things. So once you learn what walleyes do, or when you learn what muskies do, and you learn what bass do, that's just going to help you. So pay attention to those small details, because they're not small actually. They actually matter a great deal. And going back to the guide thing, if you're a busy person and you only really get to fish for 1 week out of the year, that's when you take your family vacation and you're going up to Rainy or you're going to Lake of the Woods or wherever it might be. Yeah, it's not the worst idea in the world to budget in getting a guide for that first day.
Actually, Dale, if you sit down and do the math, if you fish less than 14 times a year, it's cheaper to hire a guide every time and not even own a boat.
Probably is. How much? You want to talk about
serious?
Money?
I'm dead serious.
Yeah, well, of course you are, because you own a boat. You know how damn expensive it is to own a boat. Break out another 1,000. Isn't that the acronym?
That's what
and it's
they say.
not wrong.
Yep.
Like, it's always. I mean, there's always something to spend on it. If money is your determining factor, don't buy a boat. Hire a guide. You're going to come out ahead so far it's not even funny. Same thing goes with hunting. You want to talk about money? You want to talk about how much decoys cost and a trailer and blinds and calls and all that shit?
That's crazy.
It's so expensive. When you can save all that money, here's this. Save the money. Don't buy the cheap or the mediocre gun. Buy a gun that fits you. I don't care if it's $1,500. Buy that gun. Don't buy any decoys. If you only hunt a couple weekends a year, hire a guide.
I would agree.
You are coming out so far ahead in the long run. It's not even funny. You're going to have a better experience overall.
Right. So like I said, 12, 15 trips a year. If you go less than that and you own a boat, you would be money ahead to hire a guide by the time you have your boat payment, your boat insurance, rods, reels, lures, electronics, line.
Don't go down back to the bottom. No. Come on. What happened, Donnie? I thought you were good at this.
That's the same one I just couldn't catch.
I don't feel so bad now.
But no, honestly, and I tell you what, here's the real deal.
Oh,
attaboy, Dale.
I got.
Oh boy, I don't know that I'd be bragging about that.
Wow, this one is, ladies and gentlemen. You know what? This isn't. There's no camera. They don't know how big. We could totally play this up as it's ginormous. They would have no idea.
Well, I think they've already heard the disappointment in our voices, so pretty hard. I guess you could edit it.
Oh yeah. Oh, should we put that one on the bump board?
Well, I don't think we need to.
What's the slot? 8 to 10 inches?
Oh, that's what you're going to take later.
Wow. Was that a homosexual reference?
No.
So rude.
by no means.
And he took my minuet too. That's just rude.
Hey, he deserves something.
Something for the effort.
Yeah, but honestly, I mean, if people get hung up in the
Should take a picture
machismo
of that, but I'm not gonna. It's
of I can do it myself and I don't need a
Go
guide.
grow up.
And in all honesty, it's most of the time it's money well spent.
It absolutely is.
I tell you what's crazy is, you know who really enjoys guided fishing trips, and this until I explain it, it might seem odd to you, is dads.
They don't have to untangle the lines.
They don't have to drive the boat. They don't have to hook up bait.
That doesn't sound strange to me at all.
They don't have
as a dad.
They don't have to take fish off the hooks. They don't have to worry about the boat piling into rocks. All they have to do is sit there and fish. And usually after about the second or third, almost always they offer to help right away. Oh, I'll get that for my son. You know what? You fish. I'll get it. And after about the second or third fish, dads are like,
that is a vacation.
Yeah, they're like, my God, this is the greatest. I could get used to this.
Hey, so what we talked about earlier, which not on the podcast, but about glowing things and walleyes being literally evolution has taught them to find things in the dark. That's why they're called walleye. I haven't charged this glow bait in quite some time, and I just caught that fish. With that said, I just charged it now.
Well, yeah.
So take that for what it's worth, which is nothing, by the way, but just as a interesting side
What'd you
note.
think of that 32-inch black rain, even on that tiny little fish? It loaded up pretty nice, didn't it?
It loaded up really nice.
Yep.
I can tell it wasn't designed to catch 8-inch walleyes because
well, it
handled it just fine.
Sure.
I can't say it's an honest test of its capabilities.
No, I would tend to agree with
but
that.
I will say it speaks to a sensitivity. I felt that bite.
Sure.
I mean,
sure.
how hard can an 8-inch walleye bite? I felt it. I knew it was there. So.
And they are not
that
aggressive.
there is something to be said for that. No, they are not. And I'm on the bottom. I didn't see it because, as spoons often do, they don't fall straight down.
No, they tumble. Sometimes they get a little bit out of the cone.
A little bit. There's still a fish down there. There's another one down there. See if we might get a flurry of activity here. I really want one of these set lines to go. I want to see one of these snares in action. Make it happen, Donnie.
Look at your little fat head's getting nervous.
Captain, make it happen. I thought you were good at this stuff.
Yeah, that's maybe something else. You call me captain kind of jokingly, but maybe,
actually, I'm not calling you captain jokingly.
Right? Maybe some people may or may not realize that to be a guide on international water, you actually are required to be a Coast Guard certified captain.
And this water.
Oh, is it? And Mille Lacs too now?
Yeah, which let's talk about that a little bit because I kind of think it's bullshit because it's supposed to be because this is a Coast Guard license.
Correct.
Which would tell you they guard the coasts and navigable waterways. So you also need it for the Mississippi.
Correct.
Minnesota and St. Croix rivers.
Yep.
And then they threw in Mille Lacs. No, I'm sorry, but yes, you technically can get to those rivers from here via the Rum River, but not in any vessel that is going to carry more than 5 people.
Well,
that's a canoe. The Rum River is not a big river.
Generally not navigable by boats the size that we use.
No. So I kind of feel like they threw that in there just to make a little more revenue on the
well, I don't know that
fees.
it was necessarily revenue driven. Mille Lacs can be a very, very dangerous lake. Being that it's relatively shallow.
I'll give you that. This can kick up some pretty hellacious waves.
Yep, it can be downright nasty at times. And I think just the extra level of training you get to obtain your Coast Guard license.
So can Winnebagochish and Leech. Those are big
right,
lakes.
and I don't disagree
and then you don't
with
need
that.
And then you don't need them on that. So it's like they're not. It's not. I'm not saying you shouldn't have it. I'm not saying as a client you shouldn't seek out somebody that is Coast Guard licensed on those bodies of water. I'm just saying it's not required on those bodies of water.
Boy, I would look into that. I can't say one way or the other. I know that it is required where I guide.
As far as I know, it's not required, which actually the Mississippi clips both of those lakes, so you would think, if anything. But then maybe it's not the fact that it's connected. That might, like you said, maybe maybe it has to do with the size of the body of water.
Or it might just be annual, deaths per.
There's a really strong chance I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm just spewing out bullshit.
I kind of gather that impression. No matter.
Never stopped me before, and you know this.
Well,
so,
I was just gonna say, no matter the subject. That's kind of how I feel.
You're probably not wrong.
No, but it is required on Rainy Lake, and that's
Lake of the Woods, Rainy River.
Yep, Lake of the Woods, Rainy River. Yep.
And it's something that I want to pursue too, because I also fish. Once in a while, I try to get down to. My brother lives in South Carolina. We fish out of Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, for bull reds in the fall. I gotta get you down there for that.
I would absolutely love to go down there.
So much fun. Those giant bulls, and if you go down early enough, you can get some sharks too.
Fun.
And for Minnesota people, if you haven't caught a shark, it doesn't matter. I've seen this happen because we invite our friends and families down there. And I don't care how many muskies you've caught. I don't care how many walleyes you caught and big bass you caught. When you go down to saltwater and you catch a shark, I don't care if it's a 3-footer, little ripper, which is the equivalent of a perch in freshwater. Yeah, it's not like they're everywhere. The bonnet heads and the Atlantic sharpnose, those little 2.5, 3-footers, they're everywhere. You catch one of those, you're going to be stoked. It's just cool to catch a shark. It's just cool.
It's just cool. Yep.
It's just... I've caught a bunch of them, and I still think it's cool.
It is cool.
And my brother kind of shrugs. He's like, stupid sharks. He actually kind of treats them like perch, bait stealers, and everything else.
Yep.
But I don't get to do it every day. So when I do go down there, even though I've caught bigger ones, they're still cool to me. I'm like, this is a shark. I caught a shark. This is cool. So if you guys want to, anybody out there listening, we can make it happen. But I want to get my captain's license for that too. And there would be something cool to be said. I wasn't going to say this because I wanted to spring it on him, but now I kind of have to. My brother was in the Navy for 6 years, and I wasn't. So there is something that I'm going to really enjoy making him call me captain. when he's the 6-year Navy guy. Unless he beats me to the punch, because he's been talking about it. But he's super busy. He's a busy lawyer. He hasn't got time to take no captain's course, but... I've sent out emails and they haven't gotten back to me. I'm getting really frustrated, and there's not phone number links on the websites. I'm gonna have to actually write them down and punch them in the old-fashioned way.
You may have
on my rotary phone. Apparently,
I tell you what, it's in for some reason here in Minnesota. I went to a school in Duluth to get mine, but it's tough. It's you almost have to do it online or go to an out-of-state school, and I can't wrap my head around why that is, but it is really, really tough to find a school to go to.
Is it that big of a market though?
Well, that might be the problem. Probably not. But I would think with
I
don't know,
online, I only found 2 different instructors online. There are some online courses that you can take, but I want the personal.
I know, but I guess what I was thinking is with the world's largest freshwater lake,
true,
90 miles away, I thought perhaps there would be somewhere to take a class. And actually, the place I went was called Superior Marine Training, an excellent school. Instructor was kind of a hippie, but super, super good dude.
Well, it's Duluth, so.
And genuinely cared that you learn the material more so than
that's important.
Yep. And he real hands-on dude. Actual captain, 50 years, some years of sailing experience. So, real solid dude. I guess if anyone's looking, I didn't mean to give him a plug here, but
hey, whatever.
Really solid dude. We got along good. I had a lot of mapping and charting experience from my past in the Air Force, so that part was relatively.
Oh, you're in the Air Force. I thought you were in the military.
Nope, that's okay.
I'm just kidding.
It's funny because no other.
I was never even in any military branch, so for me to even talk shit about it's fucking hilarious.
It is funny though because they never
that
call
is like
any
the
other
stereotype, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. But they never call anyone else to come save their ass.
Right.
I mean, I've been the guy on the radio.
Yeah.
I've never called the Army to come bail me out.
Sure.
I've never called the Navy to come bail
Well, it
me
would take
out.
a while from the hike over there.
Never called the Marines.
Although the Navy has pilots too.
The Navy has pilots. The Navy has damn good pilots.
Damn good pilots. Yep, for sure.
Yep. I'm not knocking any branch. I love
I
love all my brothers and sisters. And actually, the joking and the rivalry is most fun when you get a room full of us.
Oh, for sure. It's the same thing as the laborers, ironworkers, carpenters, and electricians. Well, nobody likes electricians, but it's the same thing.
It's a deep love and respect for all my fellow veterans.
And the same thing with bass fishermen and walleye fishermen.
Well, I'm not going to go that far, Dale.
It's the same thing. I know you're not, but you're not even a walleye fisherman technically. Yes, you do it, but that is not who you are.
It is who I've become.
You're a closet muskie guy.
I can still catch. Well, if I just leave walleyes on the hook long enough, I can still catch muskies.
Everybody knows they eat all the muskies, bro.
That's true.
That is not true.
It's true.
We should get in. We should stir that pot a little bit.
Nah, I'm good with not stirring that pot.
Come on.
I believe that in every great fishery in this state, muskies are present.
That was what I was going to bring up.
In every beloved walleye lake, there's a terrific muskie fishery.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. And so anybody out there that uses the muskies are eating my walleye argument, you're going to have to find a different argument, because if you list the top 5 walleye lakes in the state, they share something in common.
Yep.
They have muskies in them.
It's a true story.
Sorry, but they just do. Do they eat muskies? I'm sure. Or do they eat walleyes? I'm sure they do.
If you can find a walleye that's eating muskies, that is going to be a huge, huge walleye.
Wow. They got to start small at some point in time. Except they're not in the same waters. When a muskie fry hatches out in the deep, shallow bay somewhere, chances are there's not a walleye back there.
Yep, they've usually gone to the first break by then.
Yeah. Actually, your northerns are the ones that eat your muskies because they hatch out a week or 2 earlier. Ooh, we got another fish down there. This is so exciting. Oh, he's gone. That was such a letdown. Would really like to catch a nice one. Could you make one of these snare rods go down? I really want to see that. I really want to see
snare rods go down today about as often as my wife.
Whoa. Clearly, you don't expect her to listen to this. Or maybe you hope she does.
Clearly, these snare rods have not gone down once.
I don't know if that's a knock on the rods or
you may have to edit that last part out.
Nope, it's in. You don't
Son
want
of
you
a
just
bitch.
gotta you just gotta roll with it. She's been married to you for how long? I'm sure she's heard it all.
Oh, yeah, we've been together for quite some time, 20
that's
plus
like
years.
Me saying something that's gonna shock my wife.
Oh, I'm not saying she'd be shocked as much as I'm saying the odds of that snare rod ever going down again.
You might stand a better chance. I don't know. We'll see. That's fucking hilarious. So I think we've come up with bottom line: hire a guide if you can afford it. Factor that into your vacation plans. You're not gonna regret it. That's for sure. I don't know what possibly would happen that you're gonna regret it. Although there's a range of skill level among guides, I will say. So early in our red fishing experience in South Carolina, we would hire this guy, and if you're ever in the Hilton Head area, I will give him a free plug. Look up the fishing coach, because Coach is the man. He goes by Coach because he used to coach sports, and now he's retired, and he's a fishing guide, and this dude is super cool, and he knows what he's doing. Awesome. But one day he was available, and one day he wasn't. So we got him for the first day, caught some fish. Second day, we had to hire somebody else. We found this other guy. Not impressed. Took us out in this little John boat, ran up some creek. We fished in like 2 different spots the whole time. Pretty much anchored up, just fishing on the bottom. Didn't change baits. Didn't try anything. Just like sat there. And basically had to pay this guy the same amount as we paid Coach. Not the same value at all.
Not the same experience for the money.
Not the same. And here's my philosophy with guiding. You need to work at it. The days I think where a guide earns his tips are not the days where they're jumping in the boat or anybody can catch them. It's the tough days. How hard are you trying to get? Are you changing baits? Are you trying different things? Are you trying different spots? Because this guy wasn't. Like, I don't believe this guy earned a tip. We tipped him anyways, but it's.
So I honestly, I think you learn the most from a guide on the days we struggle.
Absolutely.
If we drive to the boat to one place and just waylay on the fish.
What did you learn?
Well, what you've learned is that guy's got a killer spot and mark that on Navionics
or
on
the
your
fish
phone.
are really hungry right now.
But honestly, I mean, some of my greatest trips, my best trips where my customers felt like they learned the most is days where, it's crazy. You go out every morning with a game plan and, okay, we're going to go jigging a shiner on this reef we've been having some pretty good luck on. The weather's been stable. And you get out there and you're marking fish and no takers. And now your options are to sit here all day and hope they turn on, or, that looks terrible in your customer's eyes. Okay, so that doesn't work. Hit a couple other reefs. Can't find an active pot of fish. All right, now I'm pulling rigs. You're pulling rigs. You're trying to imitate a bug hatch. Maybe you've got, Max Smiley blades on and a little tiny chunk of crawler, or there's so many. Oh, that didn't work out. Now I'm pulling crankbaits. And it's crazy. It's a crazy amount of work some days. A lot of people, they say, oh, you got a dream job. Oh, man, fishing guy, that's a dream job.
Yeah. Must be rough.
Yeah, well, I think what most people think is that, it's just like fishing with my friend Bob. We grab a 6-pack of beer, we throw an anchor out, and what happens, happens. And that's not necessarily the case when you're a fishing guide. I mean, it's I tell you what, that 22-foot Nitro ZV gets pretty small when you ain't catching fish.
Oh, I bet.
And it gets awkward. And customers, they start getting a little growly. And everybody wants to go out. Okay, I'm not trying to take your money and have you not go out and have a good time.
No,
or not. Trust me, you are going to see a wild man. I am doing everything in my power to put you on fish.
It's, like you said, that's a long day when you're not catching fish. There's nobody that gets in the guiding business that hopes they go out and don't catch a fish.
Right. My favorite is usually little kids. It's things are tense. The bite is tough. And, it's always a little kid. Geez, Dad, I sure thought we'd catch more fish. You just want to grab the little punk by the throat, like it didn't need to be said out loud. Right. We're all thinking it.
Out of the mouth of babes. We're like, well, we agree, because I was sure hoping we were going to catch more fish, too.
Right.
Catch fish is money in your pocket. Like, you're not.
Correct.
That is a guide's motivation, too. And it's more than that, too. We touched on it earlier. It's the as cliche as it sounds, it's the making memories. It's the meeting new people, having a good conversation. Like you said, you meet the right person, and next thing you know, holy crap, it's 3 o'clock. We got to head back in.
Yep.
And I kind of expect that to happen more often than it doesn't. I mean, that's what I'm looking forward to as a guide. That's what I'm looking forward to as a podcast host. I mean, so far it's been great. Everybody I've had on the podcast, it's amazing how much time flies by. The one we just had with Nick Johnson, it was 3 hours went by so fast. And people are like, holy crap, it was 3 hours. You're like, yeah, it didn't feel like 3 hours to me. And hopefully when you listen to it, it doesn't feel like 3 hours. But it's the meeting people, and that's kind of always been my thing. I've always kind of been a people person and a talker. And
well, you're a way better talker than a listener. I'll give you that.
That's right. And a fisherman, apparently. Although I might be up on you right now.
Yeah, I think you are up on me by one.
Yeah, if we weighed them, it wouldn't be much difference.
Well, I tell you what, that's what a good guide does. He puts his people on fish.
See, there it is. There it is. There it is. Absolutely. Anything else you want to touch on? Anything else you want to pimp out? Who else do you pro? Oh, you just got a new gig with Markham. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. So it's kind of a unique position. They asked me to come on and be part of the Markham Innovations team, and it's more of it's not a pro staff position. It's more of a help prototype and test
R&D.
and give feedback.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. It's kind of a really interesting angle on the flasher industry. I personally have been, and I'm not going to bash any brand. I know the Vexilar guys love their Vexes, and the Markham guys love their Hummingbirds and Garmins, and even Lorentzes now. There's a ton of quality units out there. Sometimes it's just finding what's the best fit for you personally.
Personal fit, for sure. Yep. They're all good.
They're
all good.
They all
do what they're supposed to do.
They'll all show you your jig, and they'll all show you fish.
Comes down to interface.
But for me, I've been a Markham guy for, I don't know, not a Markham guy, but I've been a Markham customer, I should say, for probably a decade. And I put a lot of faith in their products. I use them on my guide business, and so it's not a pro staff position. I still pay for stuff. So a lot of times when you hear on online and on some of the Facebook groups, these guys that are just hell bent on defending one and destroying another. It's just ridiculous. They all work. Yeah, it's so crazy. Nobody ever wants to feel like they bought the wrong thing.
Sure.
Yeah. But no, I'm excited. It's a unique position for sure.
Yeah, that's fun. That's cool.
And a lot of people ask, "Oh, geez, how'd you get on the pro staff and how'd you do?" Well, listen, it's I just fish every day.
Right.
I just fish every day. So when I go back and say, I'm really struggling with trying to figure out these options or these settings, they say, okay, well, maybe we need to make this a little more user friendly.
Yeah.
Or something to that effect. It's really, actually, honestly, it's only been a couple of days.
And I don't go out and look for, and we talked about this earlier too, I don't go out and ask people, ask companies. I'm not cold calling companies like,
right.
Hey, are you looking? Here's me. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to go do what I do. And then hopefully down the line, maybe somebody comes along that recognizes or that fits into their business model, and we can work together, and that would be great. But it's not. I'm not going to sell something I don't believe in.
Correct.
And to talk about like your new position with Markham, I think it's pretty cool. It's going to kind of change how you look at the Markhams you have now, because now it's not a matter, is it working, do I like it? It's like, how can I improve this?
How can I improve it? And
it becomes a different experience now.
Yeah, for sure. And one of the really cool things is I went down to the shop there, and like I didn't realize that everything is done right in house here in New Hope, Minnesota. I didn't know that. That to me,
I don't think I knew that with Markham. I didn't think I knew that either.
Yeah. Everything is in one building.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's a local Minnesota company, which I know Vexilar is too. So, but I don't know. I like supporting my local peeps. JT Rods is a local right out of Farmington, Minnesota, made in Joe and Andrea's garage, and now Markham being a local outfit. It's support the people that support you.
Yep. No, I agree with that 100%. I buy local as much as I can. Sometimes it's not convenient. I'm not going to say I don't hit up a Walmart once in a while.
Sometimes it ain't cheap.
And no, a lot of times it's not. A lot of times it's not. If you're looking for the cheapest thing, probably going local is not the way to go. But who are you helping?
Right.
Are you helping your community? You're helping some faceless, nameless CEO of a giant corporation somewhere.
Well, it's probably not faceless. They still have a face.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm saying. And what and you're pinching pennies. And how much are you actually saving? Are you not willing to spend an extra $5 for something that goes back into your actual community? I know people are cheap, but sometimes you gotta pony up a little extra dough.
I prefer the term resourceful.
Resourceful. That wasn't the term you were using earlier.
Hey, that was off air. That was off air.
As it shall stay off air.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess you asked me if there's anything else. I really don't have nothing else. It's been a pretty good conversation. We should have turned these damn mics on 3 hours before we did.
I know. Well, that's how it always goes. And that's sometimes I do. I'll literally just press play and keep talking because it seems like the most natural conversations come up when you're not recording.
Sure.
The headphones and the microphone are weird for a lot of people. A lot of people aren't used to hearing their own voice. So it's it's a little off-putting for some people, but people settle in. So far, I haven't really had anything too awkward on these podcasts. It's
it does get a little.
Cool.
It gets a little. I tell you, I was filming an episode of The Next Bite with Keith Cavallas and Trent Eineichner, and it was the first TV show I did, and we could sit and talk about fishing all day long, and not a problem, not a stutter, not a slip.
Yeah.
And they, The Next Bite is on Discovery, and it's seen by an absurd number of people, and they put that camera in your face, and boy, you just turned into a blubbering idiot. Like, you can't.
See, that's where I have the benefit. I'm always a blubbering idiot.
Sure,
you put the camera on me, it's not going to change.
Yeah, one example is I had to give a pro tip on using different size jigs for different amounts of flow in the Rainy River, and for some reason I could not get quarter-ounce jig. I said quarter-inch jig. And I don't know if it was my construction background or what. We must have had to do 15 takes. And, good Lord, I did it again. And, it's something so stupid. But, boy, when they put that camera in your face. But, it's similar with the headsets and stuff. But, once you get used to it, it's.
No, and hopefully the conversation is good enough where you forget you have it on. I mean,
Right.
Most times I do. Not always. There are natural lulls in the conversation, and then, that's on me as the host to pick it up and keep it flowing.
The nice part for me is your earphones and the microphone kind of hide some of your face, so
I got this wall here too. I mean, if it's really that big, I can just lean over. It's not a big deal. I mean, it was a conscious decision to not have this a filmed podcast.
Oh,
trust me.
Yeah, good idea. You got a face for radio, isn't that the old saying?
Yeah, that's what I've been told. Mm-hmm. That's what I've been told. I believe them. You got to play to your strong suits. If my face isn't one of them, that's just how it goes. What are you gonna do? Apparently, my fish catching abilities aren't all that strong either.
Yeah, it's been pretty
I think
tough
it's more.
bite
I
today.
think it's the spot. Like I said, it's not where we want it to be. It's a deeper. The fish are probably working up on the reefs right now.
Had you bought that plow you were supposed to buy, we could have gone wherever we wanted.
If you got a spare $7,000 laying around,
I do not. I'm a broke fishing guy.
There's a Western plow dealer out there looking for a fishing pro staffer. Want to get some?
Not a bad plan.
Let me know. Get a V plow. We'll plow some spots. I'll be pitching you all the time. But anyways, I don't know. We'll give everybody your contact information one more time. Let's wrap this thing up. I need to grab another beer.
Name is Donnie Obert, Captain Donnie Obert.
Obert.
I'm with Rainy Days Guide Service on Rainy Lake and Rainy River. You can also find me at Obert's Angling Adventures on Facebook and Captain Donnie on Instagram.
Phone number
612-205-6463.
All right, Don, I appreciate you doing this. We've talked about it for a while, and as usual, it's hard to get people on a schedule, especially when you're a guide, finding a time where you're not actually guiding.
We got this one squeezed in between guide trips.
We
so
literally did.
Nice.
Your clients are using my Yeti, so it works out.
Yep.
I appreciate the business my way, and I will throw as much business your way as possible. I fully agree with scratching each other's backs in this industry, and there's definitely a big enough pool of money enough for everybody. So
for sure.
We'll keep it again. If for some reason we can find another time to actually go muskie fishing,
I thought you wanted to do sturgeon.
That would be great. Well, I do want to do sturgeon too, but.
All right, well, sturgeon fishing happens first.
And probably not as many clients on that too, I suppose.
Oh, you'd be surprised. It's a bucket fish for a lot of people.
I wouldn't be surprised, but.
Yep. I ran.
A lot of people are saving their vacation time for summer, not.
Yes, very few
April,
people want to come up and fish the Rainy River in April.
When you might still have to wear your snowmobile outfit.
Yep.
Because it could.
We broke
it's Minnesota,
ice.
So
last year we broke ice for.
Until you get to June, you're not out of the woods yet for
it's still
a heavy snowstorm. That's just how it is. But all right, everybody, thanks for listening.
Thanks for having me, Dale.
Yeah, absolutely, Donnie. Appreciate it. So anybody out there listening, somebody that wants to rent out a Yeti, I got one for rent. Donnie's a good guide. I'm guiding. find me on Facebook if you haven't already. Instagram, Full Scale Outdoors. And stay tuned for more outdoor podcast stuff and shenanigans. Talk to you later.
Peace.